In this Domain Sherpa show, Profitable Flips, skilled domain name investors share all the details of how they bought low and sold high. On today's show, we're going to learn how a $9,000 domain name sold for $140,000 only 8 months after purchase. Stay tuned. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Welcome to the all-new Domain Sherpa show called Profitable Flips. In this show series, I invite skilled domain name investors to share all the details of how they bought low and sold high. In this series premiere, I'm pleased to welcome Braden Pollock, a past Sherpa who shared information about his lead generation company, Legal Brand Marketing, in a previous Domain Sherpa interview. If you haven't had a chance to watch that interview entitled Building a Niche Generation Empire, please do so. A link is presented below. You won't be disappointed. Welcome back to the show, Braden.
Thank you very much. You know, that was so passionate. I don't know if I could keep up with all that.
That was funny,
tough
buddy.
act to follow.
All right, so thanks for being on the premiere show of Profitable Flips. The show idea is simple. We hear about profitable flips all the time in the industry, but what we don't hear about are the details that went into the successful flip. To be on the show, a domain investor must meet 3 criteria. 1, sold a domain name that was purchased within the last 12 months. 2, the profit of the sale must be at least $10,000. And 3, the profit of the sale must be at least 100% of the purchase price. Your flip today meets all 3 criteria, Braden, so let's start from the beginning. What was the domain name that you recently sold, and when did you purchase it?
The domain was statement.com.
Okay.
And I purchased it in October.
October 2013.
Correct.
Statement.com, the singular, correct?
Correct.
All right. How much did you pay for the domain name statement.com?
About $9,000.
Okay. And you say about $9,000. That makes me wonder. Do you not remember how much you paid for it?
I'm very secretive. No, it was part of a portfolio of names, all equal value. So divided out, it was about $9,200.
Okay.
But they're all equivalent names. There are no dogs in there. So
my quick math says you bought this portfolio of names for, you said, how many names did you say?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm glad I didn't do the quick math in my head with the information that you gave me before the show. All right, about $9,200 per domain name.
Behind the curtain. Like, I can't let him know that. There were 7 names for $65,000.
All right. And do you think that $9,200 per domain name was a fair purchase price for statement.com, or do you think it was a great purchase price? You know, how would you classify the purchase of it?
I think that it was a very, very good price, which is why I bought it. I'm looking for deals. You know, the thing is that most of the names I buy, I don't have a purpose for it other than to sit on it, wait for an end user to come along. Mm-hmm. So I have to buy it right.
Gotcha.
Right? I'm looking for great deals.
Yep. And so you purchased this portfolio of domain names. Do you think you could have purchased each of the names individually, or was the previous registrant of the domains looking for a lump sum of cash and you just happened to come along at the right time?
Yeah, it was a portfolio sale. I mean, he was asking substantially more than $65,000 for the portfolio, but that's what I ended up buying.
Cool. And of course, as the audience knows, I'd ask you for a list of all the domain names purchased in that package. But as you and I discussed in the pre-show interview, you understandably don't want to make it all public as it might affect a sale in the future. So let's jump to the end of the story for a moment. How much did you sell the $9,200 domain name statement.com for?
$140,000.
And that took place, when did you actually close and get the money deposited in your account?
Last week.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Congratulations. So the deal is done and funded and the cash is in your bank account.
If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
$9,200 to $140,000 is quite a profit for only owning the domain name for about 8 months. So let me go back to the beginning. As soon as you bought this domain name, did you do any publicity to sell the domain name, such as list it for sale on any marketplaces or put up a landing page or contact brokers and let them know that you own it now?
I parked it at domain name sales, at internet traffic, and so it was listed on domain name sales.
Mm-hmm.
So the inquiry came through DNS.
So if a user who was interested in the domain name typed statement.com into their browser bar, it would take them to a landing page. And typical landing pages at domain name sales can either be a straight inquire about this domain name, or it could be like showing ads, and then it has a bar at the top that says this domain name may be for sale, contact us. Which kind of landing page did you use?
Yeah, I've got the combination. So there's an ad feed as well as a banner at the top that says this domain name is for sale, click here.
Gotcha. So you changed your registering information. You pointed the domain name at domainnamesales.com internet traffic, and you monetize it with advertising. The lead actually came through domainnamesales.com or internettraffic.com. I'm not sure exactly how to refer to that. It came through...
Yeah, DNS, domain name sales.
Domain name sales. Okay. And when it came through, was the prospective buyer, did they use their real information, or did they use sort of a fake Yahoo throwaway address?
The real information.
Nice. Okay. Then I'm going to come back and ask you about the new information. Before you got this inquiry from the buyer, the transaction that actually took place, how many inquiries did you receive in the other 8 months that you owned it?
I got about 2 a month. I've actually received, while we were negotiating, received 2 more inquiries on that name.
Wow.
I received between 15, probably better than 15 inquiries on this particular name. I actually can look it up.
And you're looking it up in the domainnamesales.com interface right now?
Right. So 15.
And would you say that most of them were valid inquiries, people that wanted to pay a good amount for it, or were most of them like, hey, I got $10 reg fee, will you sell it to me?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I got an offer the other day for one of my one-word.coms, a $4 offer. Four.
That's better than that's half the reg fee.
I wasn't sure, but I ultimately decided to pass.
Maybe it was a typo. Did you email them back and say, hey, did you mean $4 or $4,000? Maybe they forgot a K on it. All right. So on those 15 inquiries that came in, 15 or so inquiries that came in before the last one, did you ever quote a purchase price for these inquiries? Did you ever say, here's how much I'm looking for?
No, I have kind of a generic template response that says that we're accepting offers in the 6-figure range.
Mm-hmm.
That makes most people go away and leave me alone, because most of the offers are $50 or $1,000 or something, or $4. And so that's really to kind of pare it down. But the thing is that you never know. So I have to put something out there. I'm not a fan of saying it's not for sale. Some people like to do that. I like to put out kind of this broad, 6 figures is anywhere from $100,000 to $999,000. So if somebody is serious, they'll come back with an offer. Even if their offer is $50,000, they see a 6-figure asking number, they'll come back with $50,000, right? But they're not going to come back with, well, we'll give you $1,000. They'll just go away. As a matter of fact, now that I'm looking through this comment string inquiry string on DNS, the opening offer for this sale was $2,500.
Okay. So they reached out to you through that form on domain name sales and said, I'm interested in buying statement.com and I'm going to make an offer of $2,500.
Right. And then the comment was for use in a startup. Which, usually that goes nowhere.
Sure.
The startup could be unfunded, $2,500 is not going to make it happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes startups, and it is a startup, so I know what the company is, and it's a big VC, and it's one of their companies, and they have a big budget.
Now, I went to domaintools.com and looked up the whois information for the current registrant. It's public information. It's a company called centralway.com out of Switzerland. On their website, they say that they build and invest in online companies and do some venture capital. So when they reached out to you, was it through centralway.com so that you could go to their website and figure it out?
No, it was I think a Yahoo address or something like that.
Okay, so it was a generic, and they didn't lie about what they wanted to use the domain name for. Were you able to...
He didn't mention Centralway, of course.
No. Yeah. Because that might indicate deeper pockets and paying more for the domain.
Right. But he used his real name, so I was able to do some digging.
So was the first thing that you did to go and type in his name into a search engine and figure out who he was and how he was who he was associated with?
Essentially, in DNS, they do have tools that I can just click on a search button. So you can search in Facebook or LinkedIn, etc. And I think I had found him on LinkedIn, if I recall correctly.
Gotcha. And was he...
through the DNS tool.
Right. And it's just an icon. You click on it and it takes you directly to LinkedIn with the search populated.
This is not a DNS commercial, by the way.
It is not, but it is the way that this sale happened to progress, and so I think it's fair enough to talk about it.
All right, Frank, here's a free plug for you.
So that was your due diligence process. You had his name, even though it was a Yahoo address. You went to LinkedIn, you looked him up, you thought it could be the same guy. And he's with this VC/business development company called Centralway out of Switzerland.
Right.
And
then I looked up Centralway, I did some research on Centralway. They invest in banking applications. So statement.com is exactly what I figured it would be used for, a banking app. And I also saw that Centralway has a $50 million fund.
Cool. I did not see that on their website, so that's cool too.
I obviously am a better researcher than you.
Due diligence is key. So let's discuss the negotiation process. They submitted the first offer to you via email, $2,500. You said that your typical response on a domain name like this is to say, I'm looking for 6 figures.
Right.
And what transpired from that point?
He sent me another note saying that he wanted to get on a call.
Okay.
And so knowing that he knows my range, I'm okay with the call. I called him up, and he said...
Hold up, Switzerland?
Yes, just like that, with my fingers. That's how I call. That's all my international calls are just with my fingers. So I called him, and he said, 6 figures is a big range. What does that mean? Is it 100,000 or is it much more than that? But we're okay with that depending on where you are. And so I said 250,000.
We're okay with that depending on where you are. But he started off on $2,500.
You never know.
You never know. Your expectations could have been lower.
Right.
But they clearly thought it was worth 6 figures as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So I said 250, and he said their budget's not that high. And I said, how high are they willing to go? He said the max budget is 120. And I said, that's not going to cut it. And he said, let me see what I can do. And so there was some back and forth, and he talked to his people and got back to me, and he said they won't go above 250, above 120. And I said, well, that's too bad. Let me know if they are willing to change their minds. And
all right, so let me pause the story for.
Yeah.
So you went back and forth. 250. Oh, we can't do that. Well, let me talk to my team, and then you hung up, right? And then he shot you an email next, and it said we can do 120.
No, on the call he said we can't do more than 120.
Okay. And then you said, well, that's not going to do it. And he said, let me talk to my staff. And so at that point, you hung up on the phone.
Right.
And then the next communication was from him back to you saying
we
the best we can.
We won't go above 120.
Okay. And then you just wrote an email back saying, that's too bad. Let me know if your situation changes or you change your mind or something like that.
Right.
Okay. And then what happened? How long before you heard back from him?
I let it go about 2 weeks, I think. And then I pinged him and said, any further movement? Have you reconsidered? And he said no. And then I had said, is there anything creative that we can do? Do you need terms? I'm open to equity. Let's have another conversation.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And we had another conversation. He said, equity is not an option. We don't need terms. And I said, we need to go up from there. Is there anything you can do to bring it up from 120? Because I just can't go that low. I'm willing to come down from 250. And he said 140. We went back and forth. And that was the bottom line.
So he said 140 when you were on the phone the second time.
Yeah.
And what kind of...
Well, the second time, actually, he had said, I had asked him if they can sweeten the deal. And he said, let me see what I can do.
Okay. And so he hung up, and then he talked to his staff, maybe, and then emailed you back or called you back?
Actually, it then went to Skype.
Okay.
So we were using DNS, we were using email, we were using Skype, and we were using phone calls. So
Skype call, like a video chat like you and I are doing, or Skype texting back and forth?
Just I am on Skype.
I am. Instant messaging.
9 hours ahead, so the scheduling was
right.
Right.
So then on Skype instant messaging, he wrote 140 is the best we can do? Or how did you get to that number?
Yeah, it was either IM or it was on a call. But ultimately, he came back with 140, and I agreed to it.
Okay. Was that tough for you to agree to 140 when you had previously said 250?
No, it was tough to turn down the 120.
All right, when we come back from this quick break, I want to ask you about setting the asking price and about the negotiation process in more detail. Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, Media Options is a boutique domain brokerage firm that gets results. They've specialized in helping companies acquire and sell high-value domain names since 2005, with a client list ranging from funded startups to Fortune 500 corporations. Visit MediaOptions.com to learn more. We often hear about great domain name sales like this one, and what I'm always unclear of is how the seller decides a price is high enough. In your case, you turn down $2,500, you turn down $120,000. Why was $120,000 not good enough to sell the domain name that you purchased for $9,200 8 months earlier?
Well, I thought the buyer had a big enough budget to go higher. I think that the name warrants it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a $200,000 name? Yeah, for the right buyer. Is it a $100,000 name? Yeah, it's probably worth that too. So, it's the question of a bird in hand, and when to turn it down and when to take the offer. Was I willing to turn down 120? Not really. I pushed them a little bit more, but I would have taken 120. The 250, I threw that number out there because I knew who the buyer was, so I started high, but I was willing to come down 50%.
Yeah. If it was truly a startup, maybe they were part of Techstars or one of the other startup incubators, and they had $20,000 in funding. Would that have done a deal if they spent all their $20,000 on the domain name?
Oh no, not this name. I mean, I get offers like that all the time, and I turn them down.
So you were sure in your mind that this was worth at least $100,000, and you weren't going to entertain anything below that,
right?
Even if it meant you were going to hold on to it for the next 10 years.
You mean the next 10 years or $80 more of investment? Who cares? Yeah.
All right.
For me, it's a buy and hold when I buy names like this.
Yeah.
I'm willing to wait because big deal. If I can get an extra $50,000 on a name in 5 years from now after $40 of investment, who cares?
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. I mean, if I needed the money, I can always flip them faster, but that's not my model. My model is buy and hold.
Right.
And I set a price. I figure what I think a name is worth, and most of my oneword.coms I believe are in the 6-figure range. Of course, there are goofy names out there, but the ones I'm buying, I'm focused on that. And when I get the offer that makes sense, then I'll take it. I got an offer on a name a couple of months ago, $75,000 offer for a name that I had $15,000 into, and I turned it down because I think it's a $250,000 name. And this is a name I would not take $100,000 or $125,000 for.
Right. In house flipping, there's a concept called carrying costs, which includes, mortgage, expenses, salaries, until the house is sold. You just alluded to this. For those new to the domain name industry, can you describe your carrying costs or ongoing expenses associated with keeping ownership of the domain name statement.com?
Well, listen, I haven't at this point borrowed any money against any of my names, so there's sunk costs. So my carrying costs are $8 a year, right?
Aside from what you paid for the domain name, which was $9,200, you're not paying mortgage interest like you would if in a house flip,
right? Or property taxes,
right?
I'm just paying a registration fee of $8 and something cents. So that's it. Now, when you have 10,000 domain names and you're spending $80,000 or $100,000 a year, that could be significant.
Right.
But if we're talking about my portfolio of high value names, I have much fewer of those versus my long tail names, right?
Yep.
And I look at them a little bit differently. I've got long tail names that I'm selling for $5,000, $10,000 a piece, and I've got many thousands of those versus my premium generics. I've got some dozens of those, right? But that portfolio is worth much more.
Right.
But I don't spend very much on that.
Got it. Oftentimes sellers, I'm sorry, Braden. Oftentimes sellers get caught up in the emotion of a transaction, so you never see home buyers. You infrequently see home buyers and sellers not using realtors to represent themselves. The realtors remove the emotion from the process. You have a guide, you have a third party who's knowledgeable and has their own opinion about whether you're paying properly or selling a house at the right amount. Do you think it's necessary in domain name transactions to have a broker as well that removes some of that emotion? In this case, you didn't have a broker. You were the broker, the buyer of the domain name and the broker. What are your thoughts on using a third party to remove emotion from the process?
Depending on your experience level, it's probably a good idea because they know how to research, they know how to push, they're not negotiable. They can always defer to, well, my seller just won't do this. They won't go that low. I have a lot of experience buying and selling names, so I can do it on my own.
Mhm.
Not to say that I wouldn't use a broker, and I certainly have gotten offers from brokers. And I know all the brokers, and they're all my friends, so they're great people, and they're very good at what they do. I just do most of them myself, at least at this point, and that might change. That might change because I'm limited in how much time I have. So I get offers, probably get 1 or 2 offers a day, but if I was getting 10 or 15 offers a day, I would probably have someone help me with it.
Yeah. 7 months into owning Statement.com, when you were getting 2 offers per month and they were coming in at reg fee or $10 or how much do you want, and you quoted back and said 6 figures, and the conversation died right there. Did you ever ping any of your friends, your business colleagues, other brokers that you know, to get their opinion on the sales price of Statement.com before making a decision?
No, I have a pretty good kind of gut feeling about most of the names. Although sometimes I do ask what something is worth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't on that name, but I certainly have and would again if I had a name. I had a $50,000 name, and should I hold out or should I take it? I might ask.
Yeah. Okay. In this case on Statement.com, when you agreed to a purchase price, did you or the buyer want to use a sales agreement, or did you go straight to escrow?
We went straight to escrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started the transaction at an escrow company?
Yep. Yeah.
And which escrow company did you use?
They required escrow.com.
Okay. And I know escrow.com, all escrow companies charge a fee to, they oversee the process and make sure that the domain name gets to the buyer and the money gets to the seller. Who paid the escrow fees?
They did.
And that's customary for a buyer to pay the escrow fees?
It's part of the negotiation. So I had said, what I try to do is I say, just send the payment to my attorney. Mm-hmm. When you go through a law firm, a lot of times they feel comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I do it, to avoid escrow fees and then avoid that extra bit of negotiation.
Right.
If they say no, well, we just want to use escrow, and this company said everything we run through escrow.com, I said fine, but you're going to pay the fees, and they said okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I often check Estabat.com, which viewers of DomainSherpa knows is an automated valuation tool, and of course, this is a sponsor of DomainSherpa.com. But I bring this up because I always like to see if Estabat is on or off base with its valuations. In the case of Statement.com, it lists the retail value at $131,000, and it lists the wholesale value at $7,300. Now, those two numbers are pretty darn close. They're order of magnitude correct with actually what you bought it at and what you sold it at. Do you use Estabat at all during your process?
Nope.
Never used it before.
Well, I've used it, and I'm friends with Luke who built it, but I don't when it's the thing is that Estabat, they've only got so much they can work with, right? Mm-hmm. So they can only take publicly available data, and they don't have all of it. So it can be wildly inaccurate, and and it also won't reflect future trends. Right. So if there's something happening, if it's something that's coming down the pike, it's not going to use that in its algorithm. So if I feel there's an emerging industry and it's appropriate for that, then I'm going to assess a value based on that, and Estabat's not going to do that. So it's interesting. That's the first time I've heard those numbers because I never checked Estabat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was pretty amazed that it was right on the money, maybe Braden used Estabat. And the funny thing is, unless you add more than one domain name to the bulk valuation tool on Estabat and download the Excel spreadsheet, they don't tell you what the wholesale value is. So, the wholesale, of course, being domain investor to domain investor, maybe similar to what you purchased the domain for as part of this bulk package. Do you plan, one of the things that I think the industry needs is sharing of information like you're graciously doing today on this show. Do you plan to make this sale public information on dnjournal.com or any of the third-party sites that collect information about domain name sales?
Well, as soon as you post this interview, it is public. Yeah, I'll let Ron know about this sale. There was no NDA. Most of my transactions, there's an NDA. So I can't talk about it. If I'm buying, then I don't talk about pricing. If I've sold, it's usually a big company that has a big budget, and so they don't want it known. If I'm doing acquisitions for a corporate client, they don't want it known. So typically, I don't have the opportunity to talk about my sales. And then all the sales that are, sub $25,000, I never talk about it anyway, because we have plenty of sales that are in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and I don't think those are worth talking about.
Yep. All right. Last question for you, Braden. It's a big payday for you. Are you going to buy yourself anything fun from the proceeds? New car, jewelry, electronic toys, anything like that? No?
Nope. If you knew what my overhead was every month, you would see that it, relative to my overall operation, we've got several hundred employees and many offices. It's not that significant in the overall picture, but it's a good name relative to or a good sale relative to the price of the name.
Yeah, it's an excellent sale relative to the purchase price. Congratulations again. Braden Pollock, CEO of Legal Brand Marketing. Thanks for coming on Domain Sherpa's premier show, Profitable Flips, sharing your experience, insights, and expertise on successfully flipping the domain name statement.com. And thanks for continuing to be a Domain Sherpa for others.
Thanks for having me on.
Look forward to having you back on Profitable Flips, the next flip you have. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Do you have a profitable flip that you would like to share? We've all been on the receiving end of knowledge and advice from others. But would you like to be a Domain Sherpa where you give to others without asking anything in return? If so, you might be a good candidate to come on Domain Sherpa's Profitable Flips. To be on the show, a domain investor must meet 3 criteria. 1, they sold a domain name that was purchased within the past 12 months. That domain name must have a profit from the sale of at least $10,000, and that profit from the sale must be at least 100% of the purchase price. If you qualify and want to be a Domain Sherpa, click in the upper left-hand corner of any page on DomainSherpa.com on the link labeled Be Interviewed on Domain Sherpa.